The most dangerous word you can say when you are accused is not "I'm sorry," words that put you on the defensive. I'll tell you one by one, and you may have used them many times without realizing it. Now you need to know them so you can stop using them, and I'll give you powerful strategies to make your personality stronger than ever. Leaders use them with each other, because when you accuse someone, you're not presenting facts, you're giving permission. By saying, for example, "Let me explain," or "Let me clarify," you're giving someone else permission to exercise power over you, while you chase after them trying to make them understand. Here, you have lost the intellectual and verbal battle before it even began. Imagine the scene. You are sitting in a meeting, everyone is silent. Your manager utters a harsh sentence. "We have to be honest. The work done this week was below expectations." You feel a warmth in your back. Your jaw clenches. Your breathing becomes shorter. Your body goes into threat mode, as if you were facing immediate danger. And this is not imagination. The body's stress response system, HPA axis, raises hormones such as cortisol during stress, even when the stress is social rather than physical. And within 2 seconds, the inner voice awakens. If I don't explain, they'll believe it. If I don't justify it, my image will be damaged. If I don't defend myself, it's considered an admission. So you do what you've been trained to do. You start talking fast. You open your laptop. You pull up your messages. You dive into the details, the details, the details. And while you gather evidence of your innocence, the real disaster has already happened. Not because they didn't believe you. The disaster is that you looked needy, needing them to understand you, needing them to believe you, needing approval. And in the language of status, that's bleeding. Here, we need to separate 2 things. Taking responsibility for facts equals strength. Justifying yourself to beg for respect equals weakness. And this is the law no one tells you clearly. In status conflicts, the person who automatically explains themselves becomes the person under evaluation. And who's under evaluation? The one acting like a defendant waiting for a verdict. And if you think this is about logic, that's the first illusion. Many accusations aren't about truth. They're about seeing where you'll stand.
Will you stay steady or will you slide? In work environments and social interactions, people often read confidence as a signal of competence or dominance. Not always accurately, but that's how social perception works. So the problem is that long justifications work against you, even if you're right, because they send the message, "I'm unsettled. I need to restore my image." So what should you do? Before tactics, take a layer of authority to understand the game. Machiavelli wasn't selling morality. He was explaining dynamics. A leader needs the flexibility of both a fox and a lion to recognize traps and know when to appear firm. And in the modern world, traps aren't swords and fortresses. The trap is provoking you, so you speak from your wound. And strength is refusing to hand them the keys to your nervous system. The Stoics said the same essence in a cleaner way. There are things under your control and things outside your control, including reputation and people's opinions. You can control your stance, your tone of voice, your decisions, but you cannot control everyone's imagination about you. So here's the question that bites from the inside. If people's opinions aren't in your control, why do you spend your life acting like you're on a mission to explain yourself to the universe? This is where the real depth begins, because explaining isn't often respect for truth. Explaining is often fear of rejection, fear they'll leave you, fear of being the villain in their story. And manipulators, consciously or unconsciously, can smell that, and they use it like a rope. Now, let's move into the tactics, not to destroy people, but to restore authority to yourself. First rule: these tactics are for provocation, character attacks, and accusations meant to control you, not for official investigations, not for clarifying legal or safety mistakes, not for relationships you want to grow through honesty. Strength isn't avoidance. Strength is choosing the timing of your words. Tactic: non-defensive presence. Before you say a single word, your body is already speaking. If your body is tense, shoulders raised, eyes shifting, voice sharp, even if your words are rational, You're sending the message, I'm threatened. Non-defensive presence means slow your breathing, slow the rhythm, create space between you and the accusation. Weak example, him. You always mess up the details. You. No, not always. It's just that, that happened because. Strong example, calm, him. You always mess up the details. You. Can you give me one specific example? The difference? The first person runs to prove they're good. The second stands steady and asks for reality, not judgment. Tactic, silence as dominance.
Silence isn't the absence of speech. Silence is space, and whoever owns the space controls the rhythm. In negotiations, brief periods of silence around 3 seconds or more often precede shifts or breakthroughs in the conversation. And in group conversations, moments of silence that interrupt the flow can feel uncomfortable and influence people's sense of belonging or acceptance. That's exactly its power. Silence breaks the pattern. When should you use it? When someone throws a quick accusation, hoping to trigger your reaction. Weak example, colleague. Clearly you don't care about this project. You. No, I do care. I've just been under pressure, and I worked late and no one noticed. Strong example, colleague. Clearly you don't care about this project. You. Short silence, calm look. What made you reach that conclusion? In silence, you didn't give them emotional fuel. In the question, you brought the conversation back to reality. Tactic, frame control. The frame is the definition of the situation. If you accept their definition, you'll move inside it exactly how they want. Frame control doesn't mean arguing. Frame control means naming the game. Use it when accusations are based on intentions you meant to, rather than concrete actions. Weak example, her. You did that to undermine me. You. No, of course not. I would never. I only meant. Strong example, her. You did that to undermine me. You. Let's focus on the action itself. What exactly bothered you? You didn't step into the dangerous territory of intentions. You brought the discussion back to something measurable. Tactic, question reversal. Sometimes the strongest response is asking a question that exposes the motive behind the accusation without attacking. Use it when someone uses investigative questions to shrink you into a small role. Weak example, manager. Why were you late? You. Traffic and the internet went down. And strong example, manager. Why were you late? You. Would you prefer we focus on the cause or the solution so it doesn't happen again? That question shifts the dynamic from self-defense to situation management. Tactic, fogging. Fogging comes from assertiveness training, calmly receiving criticism and acknowledging the part that might be true without swallowing the insult. Use it when criticism contains a grain of truth wrapped in poison. Weak example, him. You're careless. You. No, I'm not. I just. And you're the one who. Strong example, him. You're careless. You. I might have fallen short on that point. I'll fix it. Notice, you agreed to a specific point, not to an identity. You didn't accept the permanent label. Tactic, agree and amplify. This tactic is dangerous if used incorrectly, but brilliant if used well. The idea, if the accusation is trivial or provocative, defending yourself magnifies it, but agreeing and exaggerating it in a playful way without disrespect removes its weapon. Use it with teasing, light mockery, or mild bullying. Weak example, friend, you're cheap. You, cheap? I paid last time. Strong example, friend, you're cheap. You, true. I actually run a budget for my cheapness. Want me to add your comment to the monthly report? The goal isn't to mock people. The goal is to say, the bait doesn't go in my mouth. Tactic, strategic indifference. Now we enter the territory of toxic people.
When dealing with someone abusive, narcissistic, or addicted to drama, there's a well-known method called the gray rock technique, being boring, neutral, and minimally reactive, so you remove the reward they seek, your reaction. Journalistic sources have warned, however, that using it constantly, especially in relationships you want to stay close, can create emotional distance. Use it when you can't cut the relationship immediately, work, family, unavoidable environments, and the person enjoys provoking you. Weak example, him.
looks like you're a failure, just like I expected. You're the failure. Let me tell you what I've done. Strong example, short and cold. Him, looks like you're a failure. You, okay? You, anything related to work?
What happened? You denied the provocation, its reward, your emotional reaction. Tactic, controlled ambiguity. Not every truth needs to be told right now in full detail. People often use details not to understand you, but to find an opening. Controlled ambiguity means answers that are sufficient for reality, but poor for digging into you. Use it at work with overly curious people or with those looking for a weakness. Weak example. Someone, where were you yesterday? Why didn't you respond? You, I was with someone and then this happened and then. Strong example. Someone, where were you yesterday? You, I was busy. Everything's fine. That's not lying. That's your right to privacy. Now here's what you'll see if you actually apply this. At first, people will be surprised because they're used to every button they press producing a sound. But when you step outside the button system, confusion appears. Some people will increase pressure, not because you're wrong, but because they lost control. And that's where the harsh truth shows up. Those who truly care about you will respect your boundaries. Those who want to control you will be bothered by your calm. And over time, you'll notice something strange. When you're no longer easy to move, your status rises, not because you became louder, but because you became harder to pull. But the root is deeper. Why is this difficult in the first place? Because you were conditioned early that safety equals explaining yourself. As a child, accusations often meant punishment, so your mind learned explain to survive, and your body learned social threat equals real danger, which means pressure, tension, stress hormones, and defensive impulses. That's why sometimes you defend yourself even with someone who doesn't deserve it. You're not responding to them, you're responding to old ghosts inside you. And this is where Jung enters quietly. What hurts you isn't the insult itself. What hurts you is that the insult touches a part of you you haven't made peace with. Jung described the shadow as the repressed part of the psyche. Facing and integrating it expands awareness and frees energy that was trapped in internal conflict. In simpler terms, if you can internally admit that you make mistakes, you won't tense up every time someone hints at one. And here, the Stoics go deeper. Epictetus begins with a simple idea. Some things belong to us, our judgments, desires, and actions, and some do not. Reputation, possessions, status, etc. A free person is one who does not hand their soul to the opinions of others. And Robert Greene, even if you disagree with his tone, offers a useful principle. Refuse the roles people try to force on you, and design your image consciously rather than accepting it as a final judgment. So the psychological strength here isn't verbal tricks. The strength is identity. An identity that doesn't shatter at the first misunderstanding. An identity that doesn't ask permission. And now, hear the final truth, because it divides people into two types. Most humans spend their lives paying a tax called I must be understood. That tax eats your time, your energy, and your peace. It makes you explain yourself to people who don't deserve it, justify yourself to people who enjoy your exhaustion, and enter arguments not for truth, but for acceptance. And at some point, you'll realize something. Some people don't want you to be understood. Some people want you to be managed. And here, you either wake up or you stay under the remote control. Let me end with a 7-day challenge. Not words, a test. For 7 days, rule number 1. Delete the word because from your automatic responses. Only use it when someone deserves a professional explanation or when the situation involves safety, legal responsibility, or clear accountability. Rule number 2. When you receive an accusation, choose only one of 3 responses: short silence plus a reality-based question, or fogging, acknowledging the action without accepting the identity, or controlled ambiguity,
a sufficient answer, not an exposed one. Rule number 3. Every night, write 3 lines. Who tried to pull a justification out of you? What button did they press? How did you respond? And what changed in your self-respect? If you truly apply this, you'll notice some people will stop provoking you, some people will get angry, and some will start treating you with more respect. That's not magic. It's because you finally closed the reward door they were getting from your reactions. And in the end, keep this sentence with you. Speak less and increase your sovereignty. If this is the kind of psychology, power dynamics, and self-mastery that wakes you up instead of putting you to sleep, subscribe, not to please me, but so you don't become a game in the hands of anyone who knows which button to press.